Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where we bridge the worlds of the taboo topic of money with the woo-woo world of manifestation. We're your hosts, Chris and Jenny Schultz.
We're not just about dollars and cents around here. We're all about lifestyle design. You can be working towards financial independence while still living a life you love today.
Get ready for insightful conversations with guests who have embraced the FIRE movement by achieving financial independence and retiring early, as well as entrepreneurs and individuals who defied the norm and have paved their own way to a life they love.
Together, we'll explore the powerful connection between mindset, financial freedom, and living a purposeful life. And of course, we'll be sharing our own journey to how we carved our path to a seven-figure net worth before hitting the big 4-0. Are you ready to ignite your financial future? Then let's dive right in.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where your journey to financial independence and the life you love begins now.
My guest on the show today is Sasha Eburne. Sasha is a powerhouse in the virtual assistant movement. She left the job world during COVID and has since created not one, but two multi-six-figure businesses. She is based out of Australia, but as you'll hear directly from her today, that she can pick up at a moment's notice and work from anywhere in the world. Welcome to the show, Sasha.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, can you please share a little bit about you and tell us about your story?
Sure. Well, I guess I spent 20 odd years in the hotel industry, and a couple of years back, COVID hit the world. And I'm sure that like most others around the world, were extremely affected. And we were actually the first hotel in the country that became a quarantine hotel. So we didn't have quarantine facilities. We didn't have anywhere for people to quarantine when they came back from overseas. So most of our hotels turned into quarantine hotels, and they were 2 weeks that you had to stay in a hotel room, not allowed to leave, and quarantine in there. So we were the first hotel. So quite a number of us around the country were stood down. So that was quite interesting to navigate, and lots of lockdowns and back and forths, and even we couldn't even go 20 minutes north at some point as well. So very kind of limited in our movements. So from there, it was kind of a really rocky year of in and out of jobs, just still trying to get an income. And I decided to do some, I don't know if you have it over in Canada, it's like a body shop where you can get like hand creams and things like that. And it was a company that allowed you to work for their company and do parties online and to sell people face masks and things like that. And it was a way to earn an income, and everybody was at home, so they loved it. And I went and met an ex-industry colleague for coffee one time, and that was when we couldn't even sit in the cafes for coffee. And I asked her what she was doing, and she came from the hotel industry as well, and she said that she was a VA and she was only working 3 days a week and earning more than her full-time salary in the hotel. And I was like, well, what is this? And I sat and watched the industry for about 6 months. And at that particular time, I decided to take a switch from hospitality over into the real estate area, and I was EA to a director over there, and wasn't really going so well. Wasn't really treated very fairly. It was just not where I felt like I fit in pretty much. So there was 1 week, there was about 10 or so leads that I saw out there for a VA. So overnight, I created my business, I created my website, and within 24 hours, I had my first client.
Wow, 24 hours. So that is a sign from the universe saying, okay, I think you're on the right track here.
Yeah. It was a big sign. And then literally for the first week, I was doing both. And I kept on seeing other leads, and I kept on running out of the office to do pitch calls on phones and took my laptop. And I only had the one client, and something said to me, like, if I actually just quit my job, I could probably survive on the 12 hours a week that I had from this one client. And then I would have all the time in the world to go and get new clients. So I just went in one day and said, I'm done. I had to give a week's notice. And then within 24 hours of resigning from that job, I had another client. And then within 3 weeks, I was fully booked.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just been a whirlwind since then. I grew to a team of 15 in 6 months. And then after that, I really wanted to share what I had learned and my experience. And then I started coaching others to do it themselves. And then I built both businesses, the coaching business and the VA business, to multi-six figures in under 2 years.
I just love all of that. And I'm really excited to have you on the show, because I can see how you're going to be an expert in helping the listeners kind of see, like maybe plant that seed of, oh, I can create my own business becoming a VA. But then there might also be people listening that are on their own path to fire, that are creating multiple streams of income and are like, oh, hey, I could use a VA to help me out in the next part of my journey, right? So you kind of have like two sides of a coin here, of which that like could benefit people moving forward. So can you please explain what a virtual assistant is?
Yeah, no problem. A virtual assistant by definition is a self-employed person that provides a remote service. Now, traditionally speaking, it is administration and within their home office. However, as the VA industry evolves, it really alludes to a remote service of somewhat. So a lot of people, when they haven't been in the industry for so long, they start off with administration's offerings, email management, diary management, typically what an EA or a personal assistant would offer. However, there's really no limit because you're running your own business. You can really offer whatever service you like. So that's where I started. And then we morphed into strategy, course creation, essentially running people's businesses, sort of ops management. I come from an events background. So we've been doing events around the country, and that's pre-planning as well as going on site. So it's really just whatever you're great at, whatever your skills or experience at are, and offering that remotely. So some people might do graphic design or social media, but it's really just kind of that catalyst and that vehicle to get out there in front of business owners.
Okay. So that plays into, so there is a huge range of people, then all the VAs are going to have different skill sets and different tasks that they can do.
Yes.
So how would somebody go about interviewing somebody for a VA?
Yeah, so it really depends upon if they're wanting an employee VA or if they're wanting a business VA, because there's really two different ones. And if they're hiring an employee, then they would typically go to the normal job websites, whatever that might be in your respective countries. You know, where do the main jobs go? I know there's a lot of people use LinkedIn. Some people are moving now more into the free options of Facebook groups and things like that. And it's just really great for somebody looking to bring on a VA to really clarify if they are looking for an employee or if they're looking for a business that they will hire as a service. And then it really comes down to what the working relationship is going to be. So if you're hiring a business as a service provider, they're actually going to run things for you. So it's more of a done for you service. So when we were meeting with clients, we're essentially pitching to the client. So if you kind of think of marketing agencies or ad agencies, it's kind of really more that way rather than interviewing. Yes, they can, have questions and things like that, but it's more of a business to business conversation to make sure that you're a great fit in working together. If you're hiring a VA in terms of an employee, then yes, you would sort of go down your typical interview style of questioning. So I guess, some questions that would really work if you're hiring a business to support you is really just to kind of get social proof. Who have they worked with before? What have they done? What are their achievements? What have they done for businesses to take them from X to Y sort of thing? So really about that transformation and sort of bigger picture goals within a business.
Right. Okay. And in my head, I'm just thinking like, even in terms of, say, putting together a podcast, clearly we've got the recording, we have editing, we have writing up the show notes or uploading it. There's so many little pieces. How does one figure out what to delegate to a VA? What pieces there's some pieces that a person has to do themselves, but is that another the sky is the limit kind of thing? How do you know what to pass off?
Yeah, and I guess it depends upon who you bring in as well. So when I'm talking to businesses that they're like, I think I need somebody, but I don't really know. It's like, well, what are the tasks that you're doing that are repetitive, that what you would call the low income generating tasks? So generally admin comes to mind for most people. If you are a podcaster, then yes, it's the show notes, it's the uploading, it's the editing, the graphics maybe. So those tasks are repeatable. And by you as a business owner doing those tasks, what are the bigger tasks that you're not doing, which could be affecting your bottom line? So if they're in a revenue generating role in their business and they're doing, we kind of use the analogy like a $50 task compared to a $5 task. Or, if on a bigger scale, an hour of their time could be worth pitching in their business and they could actually generate thousands of dollars. Well, why not pay a VA, $70, $80, $90, whatever they're charging, to do the work that then alleviates you. So it's really focusing on what could you do when you free it up. Because a lot of people do get stuck on, oh, it just seems too expensive because I could just do it myself. But it's really about what could you do with the time that you're freeing up. So that's really important to identify. And then, yes, it could be leaning on their skill sets. Once you get used to them, okay, well, what else could you do? Yeah. That's really where it can be really amazing, because a lot of people have a lot more skills than they realize, because in a society where we are typically in a 9 to 5, we kind of stay in the roles that we have. However, you may have experience to kind of grow across different parts of the business, but you kind of follow one path, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So it allows for somebody to really lean into their specialties and their genius and hire people out to handle all the other pieces. And
yeah, exactly.
Is it weird for a company or a person, say even an individual, to have more than one VA handling different tasks? Or should you really find like one umbrella person that can handle a big range of the tasks that you need done?
Yeah, so I guess it depends upon how much team management you have time for. So there is what's also called an online business manager, which typically speaking is more like a senior VA that would operate the operations of your business. So in that scenario, they could then manage a team of VAs that then specialize in different skills. So you can do it that way. Or yes, you could just have a VA that is a jack of all trades and then kind of have a lot more time that you give them. However, most virtual assistants have quite a few different clients. So it's going to be very rare to be able to get one VA to give you, say, 20 or 30 hours, because they like the variety. That's why they're doing it. They want the flexibility. So yes, sometimes for a business owner to get somebody that's an expert in different aspects of their business can work really well. But then yes, the more people you have, the more team management you're going to have as well.
Right. Okay. I see that. So kind of a pros and cons to both approach in a sense.
Exactly.
Okay. Can you share what some basic skill sets are that play well into being a VA, and maybe like what some tools or resources a potential person should have at their fingertips if they're looking at going down that avenue?
Yeah, definitely. I think realizing what's kind of in demand, what are people asking for? And it's generally those tasks, like we said, that are repetitive. So, are their inboxes overflowing? Do they have thousands of emails and they're missing appointments? Or are they struggling to keep up with their calendar and missing, to go here or there? Even down to proofreading, what we said about before, editing. So if they are a podcaster, just doing quick Canva graphics for social media. They're not huge on the social media game, having someone to create some form of content so that you are visible. And that's where they can be creative with AI, like ChatGPT, if the company allows it. I know it's a bit controversial. Some people like it, some people don't. But if it's more that they're not visible at all, having a VA to kind of use a tool like that in a less amount of time can be really quite useful as well, or putting out blogs as well. So really kind of repeatable tasks. But I guess if somebody is looking at jumping in, just research or jumping into some of the Facebook communities and kind of getting an idea of what people are looking for. I do also have a checklist of 101 tasks that you can outsource as a VA. So I'm more than happy to share that with you as well if you choose.
Okay, that's awesome. And you have got to live life as a VA. Can you share with the listeners what you personally love about it?
I love the fact that I'm not working on somebody else's time. And that's super, super important. And that as a mum, it's really important to be able to have the flexibility to do what I want and when I want. And I love to travel. So the fact that we can keep an eye out for flight specials and just book a flight and go wherever, and the business can still run, the business can still earn money. So, last Christmas, we were very fortunate enough. My brother said, hey, do you want to come and spend Christmas with us? And he lives in LA. And it was only 7 days out. I'm like, yeah, let's go. We don't have to go in and ask for permission to a boss to get annual leave and things like that. And then we don't not have to earn any money because we're taking time off. So I love the fact that we get that flexibility, and work is just weaved into travel that we get to do. And even when you're just not feeling like you need to do anything, you can take the time off as well. And you're not kind of bound to, I have to do this particular day and I have to work for this client this time. As long as the work is done across the week, then it really kind of gives you that flexibility, and the fact that we get to choose who we work with as well. When you go into a job, you can't choose the staff members that you're around. You don't get to choose who they hire. And, sometimes people clash, sometimes people aren't very nice. So the fact that as your own business owner, get to work with people that are aligned with your values. And certainly if, you start working with them and things are not aligned, you can very much end the contract and move on to another client. So it gives you that opportunity to really work with people that are aligned with your values, they see common goals, and it's just a really great, healthy working relationship.
Nice. So you really have, it sounds like, such a freedom with the business model, like freedom of time, freedom to essentially live wherever you want in the world, travel wherever you want, freedom of who you get to work with. Like you have a lot of control at your fingertips to create the business, the lifestyle, all of those aspects that you want.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with the digital nomad culture becoming so much more apparent, I think a lot of people jumping into this space, and there's the new concept of world schooling. I don't know if you've heard of it, and parents are just not sending their kids to school and just traveling the world and teaching them as they go. And I think that that's kind of cool that they get to create the life that they want to create, and worldly experiences can actually be really good for kids as they grow up and actually experiencing different cultures. I think it's really important and can really help the growth of the child as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just that real life immersion into life in general. I really like that. So say, let's go a hypothetical scenario here. So say tomorrow you've run across somebody who's lost their job and they've got this feeling in their gut to create an income stream, and they're looking at being a VA. What would be a few pieces of advice you can offer to someone who's just starting out?
Connect and network. And I think even just reaching out to somebody on a Facebook group to be like, hey, I'm looking at this. Can I jump on and have a virtual coffee and just kind of see how it works? There are so many VAs out there that just love their jobs. They're more than happy to jump on and have a virtual coffee with you. So that's essentially what I did in the beginning. I was just like, oh, she seems to know what she's doing. I just asked her, and we jumped on and had a virtual coffee. And it was really cool because I could really get an insight of what they were doing, The other thing is mindset is key. And I see it a lot with my clients. They come into it and they're like, oh, I just feel icky about selling. I just feel icky about quoting high rates. And they devalue themselves. And it's more of a, I'm not good enough to charge this amount, or, who am I to run my own business? And it's actually just believing that you can do it, believing that there are clients out there. And just using Australia as an example, there is 2.5 million businesses in the country. So I hear it a lot where people are like, oh, it's a saturated market. There are so many businesses that need services, and more so now, businesses that are being created. And I believe since COVID, there are so many more small businesses created because people want that flexibility. That generally speaking, because of the VA movement, their first hire is going to be a VA rather than an employee, because that's the flexibility that they're looking for, and they don't want the cost of an employee. So it's kind of like, actually believe that there's somebody out there for you and jump on in, and just valuing yourself as well. And knowing that if you want to actually make the flexibility of a business work for you, you do have to charge in such a way that you value your clients value you, because, it's very much that concept of people sometimes see as, oh, well, if you're cheap, then you're not going to be able to provide the service as well. So it's, actually getting the mindset right, rather than, oh, well, if I charge this, they're not actually going to hire me, so to speak. And that's, I see a lot of people fail, and they're like, oh yeah, I reckon I can go and get this. And then they jump on a call and they're like, oh no, they're not going to pay this. So they drop their rates. So it's really a imposter syndrome battle. So it's just a backing yourself, knowing that you can do it. And that's where it comes down to knowing exactly what you're offering. So don't overcomplicate it. Pick 3 or 4 things that you're great at, that you can do every single time. And then that's where the confidence is going to come to. Don't go out there offering something that you may or may not know, because that's where the lack of confidence is going to come, and clients will see through that. If you're all in on a certain amount of services, clients are going to be like, yeah, she knows what she's doing. She's done this before. She's got experience. So I'm going to invest in them.
So much goodness in there. That, yes, offer the value and mindset. How much does mindset come into taking a chance on yourself at any point along the way in your life, just to have the mindset to be like, I can do this. Yeah. And I can see how that would totally play into this too.
It's huge. Yeah.
And you had a really successful start with your VA business. And is there anything looking back that you would have done differently?
Interesting. The thing is, what I know now is that there's actually a strategy when it comes to everything. And I actually just didn't know what that was. So it's kind of funny, because I am grateful for the journey that I have gone, and it has gone really fast. But knowing what I know now, if I'd had the strategy, I probably could have grown a lot faster. However, in terms of, it was pretty fast. So what I've learned in even the way that you lead gen and you get new clients, there's a strategy behind that. The way that you show up online, there's a strategy. And that's kind of just that evolution of business where, I see it in the groups all the time. They're like, oh, I'm putting out my services, but no one's coming because there's no strategy. You're just throwing it up and hoping it'll stick on the wall, so to speak. So it's kind of like I was doing the strategy without knowing it was a strategy. So it would be a little bit more intentional with my actions rather than I'm just going to try all these things. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it benefits, working with people that have walked the path. And I think like this year I have been myself working with a coach, and the business has just escalated so far because I'm learning the strategies from other people that have already been there and done it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we're going to name you the VA expert here on the show here. So yeah, I know you have a helpful download you can share with the listeners. So where can listeners find out more about you and how to connect with you?
Yeah, well, I spend most of my time on Instagram. So it's just, my handle is Sasha Eburne, SASHAEBURNE __, or just my website, which is www.sashaeburne.com.
Okay, that is so awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, Sasha. I really enjoyed having you.
Thank you so much. It was a great chat.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to continue your journey to financial empowerment and creating a life you love, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Come follow us on Instagram at Manifestation and Money Podcast or at 4Leaf Lifestyle for more inspiration and behind the scenes content. Remember, your life is yours to live. Your financial freedom journey is as unique as you are. So hop in the driver's seat. It's time to create the life of your dreams.